Hi everybody. This video here is to talk about religion, and I think I'm going to title Why I Have No Religion. And I don't necessarily like to talk about religion, and the main reason is because I don't intend to offend anybody. I don't want to create controversies about religion, and I don't certainly intend to attack anyone's religion. That's not my intention at all. I want to share my personal experiences with religion and why I chose to have no religion, and I don't want anything to do with religion. And I'm talking specifically man-made religion, okay? I love spirituality and I adore God. I adore God by living a life that would be pleasing to God. And what I learned is that we are gods also. And so a life that pleases me is also pleasing God. Okay? A life that pleases my soul. That's what I'm talking about. Because my soul comes from God. So depression, for example, is the soul crying out for whatever it is in your life that your soul is not happy about, okay? Or your soul is missing, it's not being fed, it's not being fulfilled, okay? Um, I was a religious person for 16 years almost. I became a Christian. Well, I was born in a Catholic family. I was baptized and all that, but I wasn't interested in Catholicism. I just didn't like. I didn't feel comfortable with a lot of teachings and a lot of things, so I didn't follow any particular life that was in accordance to Catholicism. Of course, common sense. I mean, I don't believe in killing anyone or anything, and I don't commit crimes, things against the law and things like that, and which all these are in alignment with religions, right? So I grew up a non-practicing, non-believing Catholic, and then when I moved to America, which was in 1986, I was 23, 23 years old. I was about to be 24, but I was still 23. And I turned 24 a month later. So I moved to America when I was 23. That was in January of 1986. And a few years later, about 3 years later, I got married. And because of the problems I was having in my marriage, I started. I turned into religion for help. And at that time, my mother was here with me, and she was an evangelical Christian, and so she talked me into becoming, evangelical Christian, which is Protestant. It's not Catholic. It's belong to the Protestant. What do you call it? Version of Catholicism, something like that. And so I first started in the evangelical church, but some bizarre things I wasn't necessarily impressed or I was actually concerned with, and that led me to the Baptist church, which I found more in line with my conservative tendencies, okay? So I was in the Baptist church for about 13 years. I wasn't in the same church. I started with one, two. I think I went through maybe 5 churches during those years until I settled in one church in Florida where I was living at the time when I was married. But as life progressed, eventually it really, well, it's so, if I can say, it helped me. Yes, it did help me. It helped me to calm down, for one, uh, regarding my concerns that I had with my husband at the time, ex-husband now. And I do believe that things improved in our marriage through prayers, and because prayer is outside of religion. I mean, you can pray, you don't have to be religious to pray, right? So I do believe in the power of prayer, very much so. To this day, I do. And so through prayer, I believe my marriage problems improved a lot. And so I was in the church for about 13 years. But eventually I got a divorce, and that happened in 2007. And during those years, I was already not very much interested in that religion, okay? And the reason I wasn't interested wasn't solely because it wasn't solving my problems, but also I wasn't living the promises that you read in the Bible. I read the Bible 3 times, okay? Actually, almost 3 times. I read 2 times completely, and I was reading for the third time when I started losing interest in all of that, okay? And what made me lose interest was not because I wasn't living the promises. It was also from the things that for one thing, I observed among the Christians, okay? I met the worst people that I ever met in my life. I met them in Christian churches, okay? And the best people I met in my life, people that I learned the most valuable lessons in my life, I met them under the bridge, literally, homeless people living under the bridge, okay? I learned the most valuable lessons I learned in my life came from these people, not from Christians. Much the opposite. Of course, I'm not referring to all Christians. There are good Christians, there are bad Christians. Just like in all walks of life, there are the bad apples and the rotten apples, right? So I don't blame the religion for the bad apples, although I do, in a way, because obviously the religion is not helping them, right? Because what is the purpose of religion? To make you a better person, right? And as I compare the beliefs, from the Christian church with other beliefs, that also contributed for my loss of beliefs in the Christian beliefs, because one, they were not working out for me very well, neither for these other people, right? They were behaving like devils, and so it wasn't helping them, right? It's actually, I think most of them really want a free pass in heaven without any good works of their own. They want to rely on somebody else doing the work for them. And that goes in a lot of walks of life, right? In the workplace, that's what you see the most, right? People trying to get away with not doing their work and pushing on others. I mean, I had that too, in my working life. But as I went through my divorce, and also as I searched for answers in other places and other sources, I started losing interest in Christianity. So eventually, after my divorce was final, at that point, I was already looking into other belief systems, and specifically in this case was extraterrestrial teachings, okay? And I also started learning about, well, that came soon after that, maybe like a year after I was involved in extraterrestrial teachings. I then became involved with Vedic astrology, which actually was brought to our world through extraterrestrials, okay? And it was also turned into a religion because the original Vedic teachings were not connected to religion whatsoever. Hinduism came on later and created their own set of beliefs and rules, based on these teachings. And frankly, I think all earthly religions are a mechanism of manipulation that comes in different packages for different tastes. Kind of like you go on a buffet, all you can eat, and they have all these different, Golden Corral, they have all these different tables of different food for all tastes. I see religions as the same way. There are all these religions in the world with all these different ramifications and teachings, but all boil down to one end, which is really to control you, to control what you think and control how you behave, really. All under the disguise of helping you. And I finally came to the conclusion that I don't need any of these intermediaries. I can go straight to God without a middleman. Okay? So when I say I left Christianity, I'm not saying I left God. Much the opposite. I think I got closer to God since I left that, really. Because then I started learning a pure God, a God that is not confined in one particular sect of beliefs. Because if you ask me, and quite frankly, and I can be pretty blunt, and I mean no offense to nobody, okay, my goal here is actually to help the people that are questioning their own beliefs, because I came to that point where I was questioning those beliefs as to be true or not, and you are afraid to even question because God forbid, if you don't believe, you go to hell. Think about that. You are giving a belief that you have no choice to disbelieve, and it's a belief, but you cannot disbelieve, because if you do, you go to hell. Oh boy. Right? So all that was disturbing, very disturbing, and as I started learning extraterrestrial learnings, right, I also learned that religion only exists in our world, on Earth. Earth is actually in quarantine, if you will, from other planets, other existences, because of the way we act. And we act because based on our beliefs or lack of knowledge of universal truths, So I left religion, and I have absolutely zero interest in joining any new religion. If I would join a religion, it would be Buddhism, because out of all of them, I think they are the safest ones, I think, And when I say safety, my experience in belonging to a church has been one of very dangerous place to be. I mean, the core belief is to kill one's son, right? In the name of love. Think about that. What sense does that make? At first you want to believe that because, I'm so afraid of everything, okay. So you go along, and also out of fear, because God, if you don't believe that, then you go to hell, So, to make the long story short, my conclusion is that Christianity is Satanism in disguise. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. Because, actually, Satanism is better, because at least is upfront with its ultimate goal of possessing souls, right? But Christianity is the same because it also believes in the killing of one's sons, and only through that all the souls are saved. If you don't call that Satanism, then you must be blind or in denial. Okay? But that's what it is. Think about that. Would you kill your most lovable, favorite son in the name of saving a bunch of devils? Would you do that? How fair is that? Oh, because it's the perfect offering, the perfect sacrifice. What sacrifice? Why a sacrifice must even exist? God doesn't give a damn what you do with your life. Okay? You can do whatever the hell you want because you will suffer the consequences of your own doings. So that takes care of everything, right? It's just like planting a tomato seed. I'm not going to get an apple. I'm going to get a tomato. So even Jesus, and Jesus was just a regular guy that was used as a character. Okay, actually Christianity is 100% based on astrology, where Jesus is the personification of sun. The sun that heals. If you go under the sun, if you have blemish in your face, go under the sun for 30 minutes and it will be gone. So sun is the healer. Actually Vedic astrology teaches that too, and Western astrology also. And because it makes sense, because it's true, because I can prove it to be true, right? If I go out there, if I have pain in my knees, I go sit under the sun, the pain is gone. So sun is a healer. So they pick up Jesus like they do with every other religion, like they pick up Buddha to be a central figure of Buddhism. They pick Shiva to be a central figure of some other section of beliefs, you know. So Jesus was picked by Christianity to be the Son of God. And it is. I mean, the sun is the planet. God put it in there, right? So God, what I learned from the ETs is that karma is real, okay? And is universal law, in effect, in all existence, not just here in this planet Earth. Like, whatever you do, you are doing to yourself because it comes back to you. It's the law of seeding, it's the law of nature. Look at nature. You plant a tree seed, an apple tree, you get an apple tree back, right? You plant a lemon tree, which I have right here behind me, a lemon tree that I seeded from seed and is pretty tall now. I think probably 15 inches tall by now. So I didn't get an apple tree out of that lemon seed, guys. I got a lemon tree, okay? So our actions work the same way. Our actions are seeds that we plant, and we will reap the result of that. So God created this universal law, and that takes care of everything. He does not need to babysit me or you about what me and you do. I mean, our world proves that, right? All these wars, and we may ask, oh God, why all these wars? And you go, well, you did it. You fix it. I have nothing to do with that. You have the power to fix it, you know. If you don't know how, but you want to, you can ask God. And at that point, He will come and help. He will give you guidance. Okay, this is how you need to do to fix this. But up until then, He doesn't give a damn, really. You can do whatever the hell you want. That's why we have our world the way it is. You know, if you ever ask, oh God, why all this is happening? Why you allow all these bad things happen in our world? Not forever. Eventually we'll come to an end, because eventually you're going to reap the fruits of our own labor. And God is going to just, okay guys, have your way. Have your way and reap the fruits of your own labor, and that will teach you if nothing else does. Right? So this is my religion. My religion is love slash hate, because that also goes hand in hand. They both go hand in hand. Because hate doesn't have to be bad. If you hate that which is evil, then that's good. How do you end evil unless you hate it? Right? So love and hate are the yin and yang taught by the Oriental Chinese folks specifically. It's like the negative and the positive. They are both useful. In Vedic astrology, female is negative energy and male is positive energy. Okay? And when they complement each other, if they are in perfect balance, if they get out of balance, then you're going to get either so much positivity and then nothing will get done, or if you get too much of negativity, then only shit is going to happen. Right? I used to think about a book I wanted to write, and the title was going to be Shit Keeps Happening. And I learned from the ATs that, well, you have to balance these energies, Don't write that book. Just balance the energies and the shit will stop happening. You're going to start getting more positive things. But you don't want just positive, because then nothing gets done. It becomes inertia, inactivity, no change, and then dull. And then that's dull, that's boring, right? So if we want activity, if we want creation, we need both energy, positive and negative, in perfect balance. Because if it gets out of balance, then if you get too much of one or the other, then that's when bad things begin happening, and it's just not ideal anymore, So that's very simple. And that's the conclusion I arrive. So it's not that I hate religion to the point that I'm going to go on a pulpit somewhere and start bashing everyone's religion and call of them devils and this and that. No, I'm not interested in that. You believe whatever you want. Okay? Just like God also does. He lets you believe whatever you want. You believe whatever you want, as long as it doesn't affect me. I couldn't care less what you believe, really. What I believe is, I live by one simple rule these days, and for a good while I had been living by this simple rule, which is do unto others as unto self, because that will come back to you. If I do bad to somebody, I'm going to get that back. If I do good to somebody, I'm going to get that back. And that's a law, unchangeable. Everything changes except that. Okay? So that's why I don't particularly like religion. I don't want anything to do with religion. I respect everyone. I mean, as long as you're not hurting me, I couldn't care less what you're doing. As long as you're not hurting others that, cannot defend themselves, like the seniors, then I have a problem with that. Then I will step in and help them. Okay? And that's the problem, really boils down, which is going to bring up the problem I'm having here where I live. Because it was a major red flag to me when I saw that they are all, the administrators specifically, claiming to be Christians, and they promote Christianity. They turn the community room into a church. All this causes problems, because then it becomes a church that it's fraud. I didn't apply to move to a church backyard. I applied to move into a community of elderly people. You can have the religion, whatever religion you want. There are churches in the neighborhood you can go to. Why does it have to happen here behind my apartment? I have the right to have no religion. I don't want to feel like an outcast because I don't believe as you do. And that's how this place makes you feel eventually, as an outcast. And they all invite, oh, you want to come to a Bible study? No. Why are we even talking about that? Why am I being, I know people don't mean anything bad. I know they believe they are doing the right thing. And that's another problem with this religion that makes you annoy other people because you think you are doing the right thing. Okay? So I know there are some folks probably mad at me or disappointed or whatever. I don't care really. I mean, I haven't done anything bad to nobody. I just have been verbal about where I stand with all that. And God, to tell them that their religion is actually Satanism is extremely offensive. So I'm sure they got offended by that, but that's their problem, not mine. They have a problem with the truth. You just need to work that out. I'm sorry. But if you compare the practice of Satanism and the practice of Christianity, they are one and the same, except that one is in disguise and the other is up front. That's the only difference. Okay? Or the sacrifice, oh, you have to sacrifice a lamb for this and that. Oh, what? I feel bad for the lambs, really. The lambs are like, whatever, this is a very dangerous place to be, isn't it? Yeah, Christian church is an extremely dangerous place to be. That's my personal experience, because God forbid you don't believe like they do. If you go against their beliefs, God forbid, they'll crucify you, like they did to Jesus. Isn't that what they did to Jesus? I feel bad for Jesus, I learned that Jesus was actually a reincarnation of Cain, who came to pay for his own karma of killing his brother. That makes complete sense, doesn't it? So Jesus, it was a character that, it was just a regular guy that they turned into this character to create a religion. And the invisible hands behind all these creations and manipulations, ultimately to control you, Yeah. So I think this is one of the core of the problems that go on in this place here, And so these people are bored because they don't have anything to look forward to. Beginning with their self-inflicted limiting beliefs, And then they think their happiness are going to come from gossiping because they are bored, so they gossip. And that is also encouraged by the administrator, particularly the woman, with the help of her husband, At the end of the day, I feel bad for these people because I don't think they realize the stupidity that they are engaged in. Because eventually this is going to come back to bite their own asses, really. Because that's how karma works. You don't get away with injustice against others forever. Eventually, the game turns around because you're going to reap the seeds, the fruits of your own labor. That's called karma. So if you want to ask me, what is your religion? My religion is love. How about unconditional love? Have you considered that? Loving the unlovable? Isn't that what you learn in your church? To love what you consider unlovable? You have not practiced that with me. Although I don't think I'm unlovable, I just don't conform to your idea of love. I'm against the love that kills their own son, I don't want anything to do with that kind of love, really. So my verbalizing that and my complaining about why am I being subject to this kind of environment to begin with? Oh, I know why. Because they all are. They're administrators. They're bosses. What do you think is going to be the result of that? war on a regular basis. So I'm very sorry for this situation that you created, and you want to blame me. Okay, that's an easy way out, isn't it? Take responsibility for your own doings. Go back reading your Bible. I don't think it's helping you. I read that book almost 3 times, like I said, 2.5 times. Because when I quit the whole entire thing, I was fed up with all the BS in it. There's some truths in there, especially in Proverbs, but it's a lot of, you know, lies mixed with it, so you have a hard time picking up. Yeah. But that's my expertise. I research knowledge, especially spiritual knowledge, and I can pick up what serves me and what doesn't, what makes sense and what does not make sense, what works and what doesn't, depending on the result I get, right? So, like I said, I don't particularly enjoy talking about religion or any specific religion, but I felt necessary for me to clarify this in case I need to bring to court with me, because I feel like unless the big bosses do something about this, I think that's where we're going to end up. And I'm trying to avoid it. I have been trying to avoid it for a year. But if it doesn't get fixed, because all this is illegal anyway, okay? You're not supposed to promote religion with government funds. That's against the First Amendment of the Constitution. Okay? So you are violating the Constitution. How about that? Doesn't your religion teach you to obey the laws put in place by your government? Isn't that what your Bible teaches? But you're not doing that. So your religion is not helping you. Another thing that is illegal is nepotism. And there is a lot of underhanded abuses here that I have witnessed, disguised as acts of charity, which are not. They are just this affront. It's just a front. A front to trespass. You see, so shame on you. You're not a good Christian. You're not honoring your own religion. How about that? Okay, so yeah. Alright, so I'm sorry that I had to, bring this up, but I felt that it was necessary for appeasing some people that are probably coming to the wrong conclusions or having the wrong ideas based on false beliefs, including gossip, malicious gossiping. Okay, because there are those light gossiping and there are those malicious gossiping where eventually you turn what could be good into a hostile environment, because you are turning people against each other unnecessarily. And some of them are going along with that, I think because of lack of mental strength, being gullible, influenceable, easily influenceable, or manipulated, plain and simple. You're being manipulated and you don't see that. You're being used by younger folks, trying to accommodate themselves at the cost of taking you for a ride and hurting others, which I don't think you made that, but that's what is happening. You're being used by these, what I call and repeat, parasites living off the poor, because that's what they are at the end of the day. Okay. All right, guys, that's all I want to talk about this, and I hope I don't talk about this anymore. I'm not going to say I won't, but I do not like to. I like to talk about positive things. I like to lift people up. I like to help them get rid of false beliefs. Mostly, it's my intention, you know. But you don't have to listen to me. Do whatever you want, just like God does to all of us. Do whatever the hell you want, and be ready for the prize.